What if your brain isn't wearing out, but simply switching off a regeneration signal? After 60, most people assume memory decline is inevitable. Names get harder to recall, learning feels slower, focus isn't what it used to be, and the quiet fear creeps in. Is this just aging, or is something deeper happening inside the brain? Now here's the twist. Scientists have just identified a molecular switch called DMTF1 that may control whether your brain's stem cells stay active or go silent. And if that signal can be influenced safely, it could reshape how we think about longevity, health span, and how to age better. But before you get excited, there's something about this discovery you absolutely need to understand. As the years go by, something subtle begins to change inside your brain, and most people don't notice it until memory slips feel a little too frequent. Neural stem cells, the quiet architects of renewal, slowly lose their ability to regenerate. And when that happens, learning slows, recall feels heavier, and mental sharpness doesn't come as easily as it once did. This isn't about vanity or youth. It's about longevity with clarity. Because healthy aging isn't just about living longer. It's about protecting your health span and your independence. Your brain was designed to adapt, to rewire, to grow. But aging well requires understanding what starts to decline and why. Neural stem cells are responsible for creating new neurons, especially in regions tied to memory and learning. Over time, their renewal process weakens. Not dramatically overnight, but gradually, like a dimmer switch turning down the lights. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Ignoring this process doesn't stop it. Evidence-based health starts with awareness. This is why conversations about strength after 50 and mobility are only part of the equation. Functional fitness protects your body, but cognitive function protects your quality of life. You can have strong legs and still struggle to remember names. You can improve balance and still feel mental fog. True longevity means protecting both muscle and mind. And science has been searching for a way to support the brain's regenerative capacity without hype, without shortcuts, without reckless biohacking, educational light. Now here's where it gets interesting. For years, researchers believed age-related cognitive decline was mostly irreversible. That once neural stem cells slowed down, that was the end of the story. But what if that assumption was incomplete? What if the brain wasn't failing, but simply missing a signal? Because recent findings suggest there may be a specific biological switch involved. And understanding that switch may change how we think about how to age better. For years, scientists have been trying to answer one question. Why do neural stem cells slow down with age? Not just describing the decline, but identifying the control mechanism behind it. And recently, researchers at the Yonglulin School of Medicine at the National University of Singapore uncovered something remarkable. They identified a protein called DMTF1, cyclin D-binding MIB-like transcription factor 1, that appears to act as a master regulator of neural stem cell activity. In simple terms, it may function like a control switch for regeneration. Published on February 12, 2026, the study showed that levels of DMTF1 drop significantly in aging brains. And when that happens, neural stem cells become less active, less responsive, less capable of renewal. But here's where it gets compelling. When researchers experimentally increased DMTF1 levels in aged neural stem cells, those cells regained regenerative capacity. Not partially, significantly. That suggests this protein may play a central role in preserving cognitive health span. Now pause for a second. This doesn't mean we've discovered a miracle cure for brain aging. That would violate everything we stand for in evidence-based health. What it does mean is that aging well may not simply be about wear and tear. It may involve specific biological pathways losing regulatory signals. And if those signals can be restored, carefully and safely, that changes the entire strategic approach to longevity science.
In science, the real challenge isn't finding answers, it's asking the right questions. New evidence must breach our undershelf to adapt.
But here's the part that really matters for you. If DMTF1 functions as a master transcription factor, meaning it controls the activation of multiple genes, then we're not talking about a minor tweak. We're talking about influencing the very environment that allows neural stem cells to function. And that raises a deeper question. How exactly does this protein orchestrate such control? because understanding that mechanism reveals whether this is theoretical hope or biologically grounded potential. Now let's go one layer deeper, because this is where science stops being abstract and starts becoming fascinating. DMTF1 doesn't regenerate brain cells by itself. It doesn't build neurons. Instead, it acts like a master conductor. It regulates helper genes such as ARID2 and SS18, which influence how tightly DNA is packaged inside the cell nucleus. And that packaging determines whether growth-related genes stay silent or switch back on. Think of your DNA like a massive instruction manual. Over time, certain pages get tightly sealed shut. In aging neural stem cells, genes responsible for growth and renewal become harder to access. DMTF1, through its regulation of ARID2 and SS18, helps loosen that structure. Not recklessly, not randomly, but precisely enough to allow regenerative programs to resume. It's less like forcing youth and more like restoring access to instructions that were always there. This matters deeply for longevity and health span, because aging isn't always about damage alone. Sometimes it's about regulation. When gene accessibility declines, function declines. And when function declines, independence slowly erodes. This is why healthy aging must include attention to cellular signaling, not just surface-level strategies. Mobility and strength after 50 protect your physical autonomy, but cellular regulation protects your cognitive resilience. And here's the subtle but powerful insight. DMTF1 isn't creating something new. It's reactivating dormant capacity. That shifts the narrative from aging equals permanent loss to aging may involve suppressed potential. That's a very different psychological and biological framework. But if DMTF1 can reopen access to regenerative genes in the lab, the next logical question becomes unavoidable. Can this translate into real-world therapies, safely, responsibly, and without unintended risks? So now we arrive at the question quietly forming in your mind. If DMTF1 can restore regenerative activity in aging neural stem cells in the lab, what does that mean for real life? The discovery opens the door to potential therapies aimed at increasing DMTF1 levels or enhancing its activity. The goal wouldn't be cosmetic youth. It would be preserving learning capacity, memory clarity, and long-term cognitive independence, the foundations of true longevity. But here's where responsible science slows the excitement, and that's a good thing. The current findings are based on controlled laboratory environments, primarily in vitro. Researchers are now planning animal model studies to evaluate whether boosting DMTF1 can improve memory and learning without increasing risks such as abnormal cell growth. Because in biology, more activation isn't always better. Balance matters, especially when we're talking about evidence-based health and safe aging. This is why light, educational biohacking must always be framed carefully. It's tempting to chase every emerging pathway as the next breakthrough. But sustainable health span doesn't come from jumping ahead of the data. It comes from understanding risk-benefit ratios. The scientists involved are now exploring small molecules that could gently stimulate DMTF1 activity, not override the system, but modulate it. That distinction is critical for aging well. And here's the deeper insight. Even if future therapies become available, they'll likely complement, not replace, lifestyle foundations. Because cellular pathways don't operate in isolation. They respond to systemic inputs, inflammation levels, metabolic health, sleep quality, stress load, which raises a more empowering question. While researchers explore how to influence DMTF1 pharmacologically, what can you influence today that already supports brain resilience and functional fitness? While researchers investigate how DMTF1 might influence neural regeneration in the future, you're not powerless in the present. In fact, the foundations of cognitive longevity are already within reach. The brain responds to stimulus, circulation, recovery, and metabolic stability. And when those pillars are strong, you create an internal environment that supports neural resilience. Healthy aging doesn't wait for breakthroughs, it builds momentum daily. Let's start with continuous learning. Neural stem cells thrive on demand. When you challenge your brain with something unfamiliar, learning Spanish on Duolingo, studying music theory, reading books like Moonwalking with Einstein by Joshua Foer, you stimulate neural circuits tied to memory formation. This isn't about crossword puzzles alone. It's about novelty, growth, intellectual friction. That's how to age better cognitively, by refusing to let comfort shrink your mental territory. Now layer in exercise, not extreme workouts, intelligent functional fitness, brisk walking, resistance training for strength after 50, balance drills that challenge coordination. Research consistently shows that physical activity increases cerebral blood flow and supports neurogenesis. A simple routine, 3 strength sessions per week, daily mobility work, short balance challenges while brushing your teeth, can influence both your mobility and your mental clarity. The brain and body are not separate systems. Nutrition and sleep complete the framework. Omega-3 rich foods like wild salmon, antioxidant-dense berries, leafy greens, stable protein intake, all support cellular health. Sleep, meanwhile, is when memory consolidates and waste clears from the brain. 7 to 8 hours isn't indulgent, it's strategic. Add stress management, slow breathing, time outdoors, reducing chronic inflammation, and you create biochemical conditions that support Healthspan. Here's something rarely discussed in mainstream conversations about brain longevity. Regeneration doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in systems. Your brain reflects your metabolic health, your inflammatory load, your vascular integrity, and even your muscle mass. Yes, muscle mass. Studies consistently show that strength after 50 correlates with better cognitive outcomes. Functional fitness isn't just about carrying groceries. It's about maintaining a biochemical environment that supports brain resilience. This is where most people get distracted. They chase isolated brain hacks while ignoring blood sugar stability, sleep regularity, and mobility work that improves circulation. Healthy aging requires integration. For example, pairing resistance training with 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein supports muscle preservation and metabolic control. Stable glucose levels reduce glycation stress in neural tissue. That's not flashy biohacking. It's foundational longevity strategy. Now here's a practical framework you can apply immediately. Think in terms of brain supportive stacks, not supplements, but behaviors. Morning sunlight exposure to regulate circadian rhythm. Midday mobility breaks to enhance blood flow. 3 weekly strength sessions to preserve insulin sensitivity. Evening wind-down routines to protect sleep architecture. This layered approach protects Healthspan more reliably than chasing experimental interventions prematurely. And if you're someone who wants a clear, structured blueprint, not scattered tips, that's precisely why we created the Longevity Protocol, your comprehensive guide to a longer, healthier life. It connects mobility, balance, nutrition, recovery, and evidence-based health into one integrated plan. Because how to age better isn't about isolated tactics. It's about coordinated action. Remember this, and make it personal. Your goal isn't youth, it's independence. Now let me ask you something honestly. If your brain has the potential to regenerate, even partially, why would you leave that potential unused? Longevity isn't about waiting for a pill. It's about stacking the right decisions day after day until your biology starts working for you instead of against you. So what are you going to change this week? Your sleep? Your strength training? Your learning habits? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Knowing this science doesn't protect your health span. Applying it does. If you care about aging well, about preserving mobility, balance, clarity, and true independence, then you can't treat your brain separately from the rest of your body. That's exactly why strength after 50, functional fitness, and evidence-based health principles matter so much more than trends. And before you click away, there's something else you need to understand. Protecting your brain isn't just about stem cells. There's another biological mechanism, something called jumping genes, that may be silently affecting your heart as you age. I made a full video explaining exactly what that means and what you can do about it. Don't stop at brain health. If you want complete longevity strategy, that's your next step. If this conversation shifted your perspective, subscribe and turn on notifications. We don't chase hype here, we build independence.